All right, Steve says, Boom fans. If you come over from the Instagram, thank you very much. And without further ado, the subject of this little episode is my three favorite superhero movies of all time. Um, it's going to be quite surprising, I think. Uh, Anyone who knows me, I'm a Marvel man through and through. I collected Marvel. I have thousands of Marvel. So you would think, oh God, was he like the Avengers? Is it Infinity War? Is it Thor? Is it Guardians of the Galaxy? No, quite surprising and quite amazing is the fact that at number three, okay, at number three, it has to be Superman, Man of Steel. Okay, now I know a lot of people out there right now, you're screaming at the screen. You furious? I hate that film. Especially if you're a Superman fan or a DC fan. I've heard some, Superman fanatics who just hate that film. A couple of years ago, I was at a restaurant down on the strip with an acquaintance of mine. We got into a rather heated argument about the film. He hated it, and I loved it. Until in the end, we were screaming at each other before we realized that everyone was looking at us like we were maniacs, two full grown men screaming about something. He was passionate on his side. I was passionate on mine. I really do think that the Superman Man of Steel movie is a tour de force. It gives me everything that I want about a superhero film, especially the gravitas. It's a serious, serious film. And, when the film came out, I went to go see it, of course, because I had to see it. I left the cinema stunned. There were certain sections and sequences in that film which would I tried to explain to people just how brilliant they were. The most powerful scene in that film for me is a quiet little scene. It's a quiet scene. Um, it's where Lois Lane has gone and found uh, Clark, and she's basically in a position where she's like, I'm going to be revealing your story to the world. And he tells that little story, you know, um, about the death of Jonathan Kent in the storm with Kevin Costner, of course. And there's that little sequence where they got the storm, and Clark Kent's got his mum and takes this little bridge underneath this little overpass. And Kevin Costner's out there, and he gets trapped in the car. And there's a point where he could have been saved, and he looks at Superman or Clark, of course, and he just does this thing with his. Mm-mm. He was willing to sacrifice himself because he didn't think the world was ready to see a super being yet, an alien. I just thought it was an extremely powerful moment, and I remember in the cinema at the time, I was like, mm. um, and I also love the reaction. She basically dropped the story. She dropped it after that because there was a man there willing to sacrifice his life to keep this secret. And no, so who in the hell was she to go and blather this thing out? Okay, that being said, then we get to General Zod and the other villains, especially Feora. What a character she was. Oh my word. That little fight scene in the town where she's moving like at 5 million miles an hour, beating up the troops. And in that little scene, I think it's in an IHOP, where she beats the crap out of Superman. And in the end, there's trains falling over. It's just like it's every kid's dream when you read a comic when you were younger. You envisioned what it would be like on the big screen. It is done to perfection in that film. For me, it's perfect. And then, of course, there's that sadness as well. I mean, Superman, he destroys any chance for his own people, sucking them through that, little vortex that they opened up, and all the uh, Kryptonians go flying through, including Feora, my beloved Feora. Yeah. Woo, Feora. Woo, woo. So there was a moment of sadness there. And then all of a sudden, at the end, Zod comes through and he's holding the sand. He's got the sand falling out of his head, the dust. And they have that big, huge fight scene. And he forces Superman to break his neck. I love that film. Whenever it's on, if I'm watching TV, it's on. If it's on FX, even if it's got commercials, damn it, I watch that film. Brilliant. So that's my number 3. My number 2, okay, is a Batman movie, Batman: The Dark Knight Rises, featuring, of course, the threat of Bane and got Talia. I love this film. And the amazing thing is, you're thinking, Steve, you hate Batman. You've never read, you hardly read any Batman. You never collected him. You had no interest in him. And you'd be 100% right. The Batman in the comics would just usually send me to sleep. However, Christopher Nolan, the way he directs the music, and again, the gravitas and the seriousness of the film. It's a serious film. They're not laughing and joking in this film. Okay. I love the sequence when it explains about that little prison in that weird little place. I don't know, it's like Mongolia or somewhere, and in that little hole. Those people are in there. They talk about the little kid that escaped. Oh, and you're thinking, wow, it's Bane. Bane escaped. Of course he would, And then, of course, we have the sequence where Batman's back is broken. He gets thrown into this little prison. And by the way, Tom Hardy as Bane is a tour de force. The dialogue in this film is fantastic. Just fantastic. Again, twists and turns. Christopher Nolan seems to have all these little, the way he crafts his stories, there's all these little subplots. They're all coming together at the same time, and they join together in this big, huge, pleasing finale. And when we find out that, it wasn't Bane who escaped the prison, it was Talia who went up there and didn't use the little rope to save herself. She just jumped out across the thing and got out. And then, when she was good, once they'd been trained, went back to rescue Bane. There's so many good sequences in that. So many good sequences. And when Batman comes back after he's been beaten, he's got out of this hole. And that little flaming signal is seen in the sky, and they have that soundtrack go, ooh. And Bane's like, impossible? Oh. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this film. Again and again and again and again. I love this film. I don't like the fact that Bane got taken out like that at the end, but whatever. We're not going to get into negative things. In my mind, somehow he still lived. Okay? And then, of course, the ending, where Batman says he hasn't given everything yet, and he goes off and he's got the bomb, and there's an explosion. Magnificent. Beautiful. Okay. So what would you think would be my favorite? Okay? Out of all those films, everyone knows I love Thor, I love the Hulk, I love all those guys. So what's number 1? Batman: The Dark Knight. It's a genius film in so many ways. Of course, the Joker is just fantastic. Literally magnificent. Heath Ledger, of course, plays a great role. But what's so spectacular about that film is, again, all the different various story parts all coming together and moving. So you have these different story parts. So when I watch the movie, and by the way, how I watch the movie is itself a funny thing. I was at a comic convention and we had a group of us. And they're like, oh, we're going to go and see Batman. And at that time, I was like, oh, I don't like Batman. They're like, well, what else are you going to do, Steve? We're all going to go out. You're going to be at the hotel by yourself? So I begrudgingly was like, oh, okay, I'll go and see this film. You know, I don't want to be like the party pooper at the back of the hotel. So, boom, we're watching the film. After 15 minutes of that film, I was totally engrossed. And I've been engrossed with that film ever since. It is a masterpiece. In my opinion, the finest film of its generation. Of any genre. It's how a superhero film should be done. There's no laughing. There's no joking. This is serious. There's people dying in this film. Important people. And my two favorite sequences, I'd have to say. The first sequence is when you have the two little ships in the harbor with the detonators, and the Joker's playing this game. He's when who is it, the criminals, or is it, and you had this little internal battle. Is the criminals going to do it, or the little the sheep, all these little frightened people are going to do the detonator? The drama's building. And also the other part, which probably is my favorite part, is how the Joker turns Harvey Dent from this awful, just goody two-shoes, shining knight type character, and turns him, twists him, turns him into a maniac. Such a maniac that, that he's going after Gordon's kid. When you want to watch him die. Brilliant. Okay, I don't care what anyone says. I can't imagine a superhero film getting anywhere near as good as that film. I must have watched it over 100 times. Yes, me. That is my favorite superhero film of all time. Now, you're probably wondering, hey, where does any Marvel films appear on this list? Are there any there? If I was to choose a Marvel film, the first one I would probably choose is, I don't know, I guess the first Avengers movie. The first Avengers movie is good. And then the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But they're nowhere near as good, in my opinion, as those DC movies. So, I know some of you right now are probably thinking, what in the hell? Especially the Superman Man of Steel. I bet I'll get some comments about that. However, I'm just telling you the truth. So, that's my favorite films. Hope you enjoyed it. Boom!